We've done it, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone live on YouTube, and I think it's actually working. My goodness, it has been a while. It's been a couple of weeks, as a matter of fact. The very last week, the stream should have been on, but unfortunately, at the last moment, I got sort of called to help somebody with something, and it was right around the time that the stream would have happened, so it would have meant having a very short stream, and I didn't want to get into anything like that. And at the time before that, the week before that, was the heat dome in my area, which made being in the office completely untenable. As it is, it's a little warm in here today, so hopefully everything will work out okay. I have a fan blowing on me, but it doesn't seem to be a problem in the general case for the audio. Yeah, we're back on the YouTubes again. This is some exciting times, and we're actually going to look at tonight, apart from answering questions that you guys may have about Sublime Text or anything related to Sublime Text, is my override audit package, because it's being mentioned that it has a problem, and I'm not sure if it's a new thing or something that slipped through previous versions. So we may want to take a peek at that, fix it, maybe even push out a little point release to resolve that issue and another issue that has already been previously fixed. Who can say? Or just Ben, hello, welcome to the stream. It's been a long time since I've gotten to see that avatar inside of the chat. Oh my goodness. Oh, I gotta stretch a little bit. It has been a ridiculous week, and it's planning out on being a ridiculous week as well. So it's a possibility that Twitch streams may not happen this week, or maybe only on Friday. I'm not entirely sure yet. There's a lot of stuff going on at work. We're in super crunch time, and I want to try and get everything out of the way. In fact, I probably should be doing some stuff now, but it's been 2 weeks. I got to be live on the tubes. Dwayne, hello, welcome. So here's the deal. In my Discord, it was mentioned just prior to that first stream that didn't happen because my life was impinged by the heat dome of doom, that there's a problem with Override Audit creating overrides from the tab context menu. And I meant to look at that in that stream, and then I meant to look at it in last week's stream. So tonight we're going to look at that. And if you have any questions about Sublime Text or anything else Sublime Text related, you can of course throw those into the chat. Splashly, hello, welcome. There is indeed a bot in the channel. It responds ridiculously slow on on YouTube, as far as I'm able to tell. Not nearly as snappy as on Twitch. Hello, hello, and welcome. We're going to, I think, hop in here. And of course, remember, if you have any questions about Sublime Text or anything like that at all, feel free to drop those in the chat. If you follow me on Twitch, we self-derail all the dang time. I'm surprised you're up at this particular time. Let's go ahead and push the button. The button has been pushed, and if you watch me on Twitch, then you may notice that this looks startlingly familiar, except the chat up there is a YouTube chat instead of a Twitch chat, because I'm just that level of consistent, such as it is. I even have the exact same events that we can trigger in on here. So fun times. The thing that we're working on is this. One of the things that my override audit package can do is allow you to create an override on a Sublime Text package file. And packages in Sublime Text are usually zip files. They just have a different extension, and that means that if you want to make a modification to them, you would think you would have to modify the actual package file itself, but that's not a good idea, because when packages update, the whole package is updated. The old one is thrown away, a new one is put in place. So in order to make this possible, Sublime supports something referred to as an override, which is basically a file of the same name and in the same location that it would appear inside of the package that you put in a different location, and then Sublime will load that version of the file instead of the one that's inside of the package, which allows you to make modifications and make them safely even when packages update. The downside to that is that Sublime doesn't tell you when overrides are in place, so it'll just keep using them without warning you that maybe there's a problem. And when Sublime Text 4 came out, we saw that happening for some people. If you had overrides on the default key bindings or some other packages that are shipped with default packages, then you're essentially running Sublime Text 4 with plugin support from Sublime Text 3, and various features just weirdly don't work. So to combat that problem, we have the package Override Audit, which is a package I created a while back. It's not related to Sublime Text 4, which allows you to create overrides, check to see which ones are up to date. It'll tell you when there's one that needs to be updated, and so on. So for example, if we were to look at some random Python file like add line before.sublime macro, this is something that comes from a Sublime package file. So no matter how much I type into this thing, I can't actually modify it. And if we look up in here, we can see that this is in packages default add line before. Now if we were to go into the browse packages here, if I could type browse packages, that opens this folder, which is a loose packages folder. If there was a folder in here named default, which there is, and this file add line before.sublime macro existed inside of this directory, then Sublime would load this file and completely ignore this one. And there's a couple of ways to do that. You could try to save as this file, create the appropriate directory. You have to close this and reopen it to get Sublime to notice that you can actually modify it, and so on. So what we actually have here is this functionality that I added called override this resource. And we'll see that if you watch over here in this area, as soon as this is hit, that bumps over just slightly because mini-diff is now enabled, and now we can actually modify this package if we want. And if I was to save this, we can see that file has now appeared here. So that is the functionality that we're actually looking at here. There's a bunch of other functionality in here as well. We can see here if I made some changes to this file, if maybe I change this to an incorrect command like force outdent, for example, then things we can do with this package include diffing it to see how this version is different from that one, and we can see, oh, I see, I modified some stuff there. You could revert this to put the file back to the state that it was in originally so that you can make more modifications to it. If you wanted to do something like that, you can delete this override as well. And there's also various other functionalities that are related to this, like creating a package report. I have a key binding for that, which shows you all of the packages that exist, whether they are shipped with Sublime Text, installed by you, or in this folder over here, this packages folder. And anytime that you see the more than one of these populated for any one package, that's an indication that there could possibly be some sort of override in place. Such as this, the outliner package. It's installed, but it also has unpacked files. And what we're actually trying to do here, if I'm going to delete this override, close that file, and do that again. There's a couple of other ways that we could create an override. And if I open that file again, one way is you could right-click on this and say override this resource. That would do the thing. That's something that we just did previously. We could create override from this menu, and then you have to browse to the file that you want to modify and make changes that way as well. And lastly, if you were to view package file and pick that file, this is the part that's broken. You should be able to right-click this and choose override this resource, but that does not seem to work. Ayush, hello. Welcome, welcome. Where are what located? If we were to look in the Sublime console, we can see some bad stuff has happened here. And this is something that Ashwin mentioned in the Discord a couple of weeks ago. I can't imagine that I would have done this and not tested this. That doesn't seem like something I would have released. So I suspect that maybe it might have something to do with changes in Sublime Text 4 related to multi-tab selection. Probably not, based on how it seems to be doing something funny here. So I think the first thing to test in that regard would be to try it in Sublime Text 3. And we'll just set up the appropriate split here to make sure we don't see anything here. It's been a while since I've used this particular version of Sublime Text. That's for sure. So let's see. First of all, if we clear the console, we can view package. Whoops, don't do that. No. Yeesh. Add line before .sublime macro. All right, so apparently I have a plugin in place here as well. If I was to choose override this resource, here it works as one might expect. So indeed, whatever happened here is something that has gone weirdly wrong in Sublime Text 4. I'm not entirely sure what that would be. Unless it's doing something a little funny. We're going to take a look into that and see what it is we can see. I'm just thinking here. The appropriate... let's go ahead and bring that back. Remember, if you have any questions about Sublime or anything that we're doing here, more information on this stuff, feel free to drop those into the chat. Where are the commands located? It hasn't had SSL support all this time? My goodness. Oh, that's just for the check, right? Downloading like the JSON file, not the patches and the what for. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to the new update mechanism. I mean, I don't know that I would get as much use out of it as other people will, because I always say I want to update and check the change log, because, you know, I got to be on the bleeding edge of these things. Let's do this. We will clear the console. And incidentally, I really enjoy how the functionality in Sublime 4 of being able to set the scroll back length in the console makes it actually possible to clear the console for the first time. Whereas in Sublime Text 3, it looked like I cleared the console, but what it really did was just output a lot of blank lines. Oops, sublime.log commands. We'll actually see what command is being logged here. I also enjoy not having to put a true or false in that argument, by the way. There's a lot of cool features in Sublime Text 4, like the syntax enhancements and the theming enhancements and stuff that really add a lot to the overall experience, but never underestimate the quality of life improvements of things like colored bars on newly created tabs or on deleted tabs, or on making it easier to turn command logging on and off without spamming the console. There's just like a lot of cool little things there. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I remember Will talking a little bit about that before, and how everything makes sure that nothing unfortunate can happen. But that is cool. And did you say that the last time that update mechanism was updated was probably like 10 years ago or something? Am I remembering that correctly from a previous Twitch stream? Okay, clear the console. Let's see what happens when I pick it. Oh, is it already a... Was that there a second ago? Did I miss something? All right, let's see what got executed. Context create override. For file 0 and group 0, which is the correct thing. 2011, wow. And this thing I was mentioning in a forum post, like it's been a long time since that was updated, but nobody, to my knowledge, ever complained before when an update carried them across the license boundary and they had to get a license update. So it's doubly surprising that this outcry happened when it happened. More a vocal minority, perhaps. Well, let's see. Context create override. Ayush, when you said where are these commands located, what commands were you referring to? I can't remember if I asked that or not. Okay, so this is the command that's being executed. And is enabled. Huh. Like move? Well, the move command is one of the ones that's implemented in the core. But this browse plugins command that I have posted previously, there's like a gist related to it. Hello, Sumadip Sarkar. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Welcome to the stream. This is camera trickery. It's just a regular camera overlay, and I have a color scheme in Sublime that provides a green screen background for Sublime Text Windows, which is also how the chat works up there as well. Although the chat actually could be a live thing, but interfacing with YouTube chat, not a fun thing. Some commands, like move to neighboring group from the default pane plugin, which is for manipulating file groups, are implemented in plugins, but commands like moving the cursor around and drag select for selecting and the like are all implemented in the core. So those are implemented in C++ code. You don't have access to those. So if we look at the stack trace here, when the command was executed, in is enabled from context create override. which was in self context package, which is this function here at line 41. We tried to get the context for this particular view, and that caused it to be angry because it thought there should be an X and a Y and there wasn't. I'm going to guess that the reason why this happens is that in Sublime Text version 3, if you wanted to, a command could return yes for want event. We could actually, here, let me just do this. In context helper is where we would actually see this. Pretty sure. The code for this thing. There's a method that you can return, that you can implement inside of a command class, be it a text command, a window command, or an application command, that is want event. And when that's true, it defaults to false. When you specify true, it tells Sublime that when it executes the command, it should give you an event, which in Sublime Text 3 had the X and Y location of where the mouse was located. So if you were going to do something with the context menu, even though the cursor's way down here, for example, you may want to know the location that's under the cursor in order to do something like that. And we could actually do something like an override report to be able to see something like this. Nothing's already expired, so we'll pick this one. So these are the names of packages. These are the names of overrides. And even though the cursor is way up there, if I right-click here, we can see that I can refresh the report, create an override in the default package, or do a diff on all of the files. And similarly, here I can do HTML, and here I can do outliner. And if I do it in this one, we can edit this override, diff it, or revert it, or delete it, etc. All of this stuff is done with a context menu, and it needs to know the mouse location, even though the cursor is up there, which would be a selection, right? So by specifying want event true, you get that particular event being passed, the event object being passed, rather. Otherwise, Sublime won't actually give you that information. But in Sublime Text 4, that is sort of enhanced because you can get event information to be able to know what keys were held down at the point where the context menu was invoked. So I think what's actually happening here is that this command thinks when it calls self.viewContext, which would be over here, when it gets into this code, when it sees that it has an event, it tries to look inside of it. Which I guess probably filters down to view target. So see, now notice that it says the event is none. That's sort of to backfill that argument there, because if want event is true, then you will get an event when you invoke stuff with the mouse, but you don't get an event if you use a key binding, normally speaking. So in that case, if you didn't get the event, Sublime would generate an error message to tell you that you tried to invoke a command with the wrong number of arguments, so it defaults to that. But those arguments are passed into here. And I bet you if we look in this menu, we can actually see it following down into view context, into package at point. In this particular case, is what it was actually trying to do something with. By assuming that it had an event. I got to retrace that now because I was talking while I did it. Context package calls view target, view context. Right. So that's this one. View context would call that if there's any of those informations that are specified in the arguments, they come from the arguments first. Otherwise, they come from settings. Otherwise, it gets into here. This is the part where it's going wrong in Sublime Text 4 because it's getting an event, but it's not getting the location information. It's only getting key information. And we could actually sort of investigate that with a plugin if we wanted to be able to see what's actually happening there, which would probably be a good idea to be able to understand what it is that's actually happening in this particular location. Ooh, and Splashly joined the Discord. Hello, Splashly. I'm gonna say welcome. Like the thus. All right, so let's show a demonstration of what's actually going on here. And to do that, we'll close this project and say create a new plugin. And it can be a text command. It doesn't necessarily matter. And what we're just going to do is we're gonna print the I am the example command, like so. I'm going to call this example. So if we were to clear the console, then we should be able to say view.run command example, and we get it saying I'm the example command, for example. What's your thoughts on having string file ops like trimming, file compare, word counts, read-only mode as plugins instead of being part of the editor? I personally am a fan of that sort of thing. I tend to think that unless there's a very compelling reason for something to be in the core, which would relate to things like speed-related or memory-related concerns, that I find it cooler to have them as plugins instead, because that allows you to modify them. Well, first of all, if you don't want that functionality, you don't have to have it, which keeps your editor mean and lean and loads faster. If you do want that functionality, you can have it. And more importantly, if it's implemented as a plugin, if there's something about it that you don't quite like, you can go in and tweak it, which is not something that you can do if it's in the core. So for all those reasons, I find it cool that Sublime keeps as much as possible in the core for speed and then delegates everything else out into plugins. That's my personal take on that anyway. And particularly with package control, making it very easy to install packages and synchronize your package installations across computers, it doesn't seem like a large barrier to entry either, that those things aren't built in, because it's sort of like a one-time setup kind of deal. And keep in mind that package control has default settings that will cause it to install packages that are missing and remove packages that are no longer installed. And that's just a regular Sublime setting. So if you want to, you can synchronize settings across systems, and package control will take care of all of the setup for you auto-magically, and you don't even have to do anything. Hope that answers your question. So this is just a very simple example command. Now, if I was to do something like add an argument for event, whoops, that's the wrong key. Then when I try to run it, I get an angriness about how it doesn't have an event argument, which is why what you normally do is have something like event none. Now what we're going to do here is want event, and we're going to return true. The default for this is to return false if you don't want to get an actual event. Now, for our purposes here, that's not going to have any actual impact on anything, but what we can do is print event like this. So every time this invokes, we can see what the event actually is. And we can see there's not really too much exciting happening there. Now, if we were to open the user context menu like so, this is from my user package, then we could have another entry in here that is a caption of the example test for the command example. And now if I pick this, we should see the command, the example test, in here somewhere, like so, or the example text. I spelled it wrong. And now when I invoke it, we can see that there's the X and Y location, and there's modifier keys as well. So if I choose this menu item like this, that's the location. If I hold down Control, then you can see that I held down Control and the primary mouse button was the one that was clicked. Or I could hold down Alt when I do it, and then we get Alt in there. Or Control and Alt, or even probably, if I had to guess, Super. For example, we can even get Control. Well, I guess that's just always primary. Nevertheless, we can see that information arriving there. The same thing happens if we put stuff up into the tab context menu. For that, we need a little bit of extra action. That's the part that's sort of causing us problems here. I don't think I have one of those. No. View package file, user tab context, right? Yeah, I do not have one of those. So we would need to default tab context menu just to grab one of those. Now what we can actually do is save as this as tab context and put that line in like so. Now this command would again be example. Now the magic of this, and I guess we probably should have kept that inside of the other menu, so let's reopen that one too. User context. We'll also put it in here. Well, I guess we'll do it the other way. The example test for the command example, taking no arguments, and also we would do the exact same thing here. We'll just grab this caption and throw it in here, because otherwise it's not going to display anything too useful. It will still display something, but nothing super interesting. And let's make one last modification to this. Let's add this, or rather, or we could just leave that off entirely, because that's kind of what we're doing here. And then we could just print kwrgs like this. So if I run this command here, we see it gets no arguments. If I run it from the context menu, is it in here now? There it is. We see that it's getting an event argument, and as previously noted, we can hold down keys and know exactly what item was passed there. Now, here's how this works inside of a context menu. If I right-click on this and choose the command from here, which is down at the bottom, we see it getting arguments of group 0 and index 1. That was this file here, remember, the one that I did here. If I did it on this one, then, come on, man. Is it not in here? Am I just blind? I'm blind, aren't I? Should be available everywhere, I would think. But now I don't see it anywhere at all. That's kind of funky. I probably should have given it a better name. There it is. Okay, so the example test on that one and the example test. So now it's group 0, index 2. It helps to be able to read too. Now, you might notice that in the menu, the group and the index are -1. This is one of these magic things. If you give a command arguments of group and or index and it's in the tab context menu, then Sublime will fill that out with the location of that particular file, which is its file group and its index inside of the group. So if we had two of these and this one was over here, even though the focus is here, when I choose the item from this menu, we can see it's in group 1, group 0, group 1, and index 0 because it's the first tab. And if there was another tab over there when we did it, then if I right click on that one, you can't really see it because it's behind the chat, but I pick the item right down here, and now it's group 1, index 1, because it's the second item that's in there. This is the thing that's causing us problems in override audit in Sublime Text 4, because doing this gives it an event, but it doesn't give it the X and Y coordinates that it needs for said event. It's only getting modifier keys, which is interesting because we could conceivably make it to do something different. Like if you wanted to, we could make this command based on what modifier key was pressed, take a completely different action, like a diff versus an edit, just by holding down a key. I don't know how well that would work from a menu perspective, but it is definitely something that's possible. And the thing that's messing us up here in our example of override audit is that this is saying if any of the arguments about a package name, a package, or an override were passed as arguments to the command, that's where the information about where this command was invoked come from. Now, otherwise, if there's information about the override stored in settings, which are something that's actually applied to the view, then the information will come from there. And if not, if there's an event, then it comes from the context. And when it gets an event, it's assuming that it can actually grab this information. But it can't because there's not any positioning information. So I guess the solution to this is to say if event is not none and event has positioning information in it, because we still want it to work in the context menu, we just don't want it to try to look stuff up like that from the tab context menu. Now, I've been doing so much JavaScript lately, I'm not entirely sure how we do this in Python now. I've really baked my brain by spending 4 months using JavaScript. You can't look at it, right? I think we want something like xin event. That's the sort of thing we're looking for here, right? Commands in the tab context menu will get an event, but it will only have what do we refer to that as? I can't already remember what it was called. Modifier key. There we go. Modifier key information. So theoretically, if we quit Sublime and restart, we hopefully don't see any problems. Nothing has happened there, so that's nice. If we were to say create override and choose default add line before, it opens the file and we could do some stuff in it, which is what we want. If we did view package file and opened add line before, then we can right click in here and choose override this resource, and it works and we don't get an error, which is what we want. And if we were to view package file, this file, and right click and choose override this resource, it also now works without causing a problem. Nice. Before we get to with it with ourselves here, we probably want to create some sort of report and verify that this stuff still works. So can we still refresh the report? Yes. Can we create an override in default? Yes. And see, now that's opened that up, it's bypassed the package selection and jumped directly to there. And we can edit the override for paste from history, or we can diff the override for regex replace widget, where this is a fun little tweak. The replace widget in the find replace panel is this one down here, which means that we could get, if regex is turned on, syntax highlighting for regex related things in the replace panel, as well as up here. If you remember, if you turn that off, oops, that's the wrong one. Then you don't get the syntax highlighting, and otherwise you do. This is a handy override, which is something we discussed in the Discord a fair ways back. I think that's where we did that. But all of this still seems to do what we want. So that actually has solved our problem rather easily. So now's the part where we need to actually create open repo to open the repository for this. And we could conceivably push out a little bit of a change to override audit right here during the stream. Theoretically possible. And here's the fix that we're going to make here. You can see a very simple fix. Whoops. We could test this in Sublime Text 3 as well, but that should be fine. We'll test that out as well, just to make sure that everything is copacetic there. But if event's not none, then there is none, that it's not going to do anything. And if it's not none in Sublime Text 3, it will always have one, because only things inside of views get that information. So I think that should do what we want, and that's a very quick fix. Fix context menu items in. There we go. Now is the time on Sprockets when we write a commit message, and we might say something like hello, Cylon Scion. What's on the docket for tonight? Well, first of all, how's it going? Not too shabby. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done a stream on YouTube, so it's nice to be back in the saddle again. And technically, I should probably be working on some work-related things because we're in terrible crunch mode, but it's just been too long, so we're diving in and doing some stuff. And we're fixing problems in my Sublime Text override audit package. There was a bug that was reported a couple of weeks ago that I meant to cover in the stream, but we never really had a chance. And LC101 stands for Live Coding 101 because this is the 101st live stream that we've done on YouTube. Should be called something different. Previously, the series was called Live Coding. Now it's called Sublime Text Live. But I didn't want to restart the numbering because we reached 100, so we just sort of bumped it up. All the videos on my channel have that little tag on the front of their name to designate the series that they're in. Still on the fence about whether that's actually useful or not. I know it's useful for me when I'm looking stuff up because I know what series things are in, but nevertheless, yeah, it was actually quite exciting. We could have done one of these. Surprise! Oh. And that's just coding live streams for Sublime package and plugin development videos as well. We're at 101 on those. Every year in December, there's something called Devember. If you watch videos on the channel around about that time, I always mention it. We tend to focus on plugin related stuff. It's something that people do throughout the month of December. They work on a programming project of some sort or learning something new, write code, make the code publicly available, and also write a devlog explaining what they did. Promoting the idea that in this world where even your watch is a computer, knowing how computers work and a little bit about programming them, even if you're not interested in programming yourself, but having that knowledge available is an important thing. And when that happens, I usually live stream my projects there as well. So technically speaking, if you check on the alternate channel, which I think is still linked down in the description, the first whole whack of these live videos were on the alternate channel before I moved over to this one to support the channel in general. There's also a bunch of Devember videos there where you can see the construction of various packages. What we're fixing here is an issue with context menus in Sublime Text 4 where they get information about what's happening in ways that Sublime Text 3 didn't, and the package wasn't properly taking advantage of that. But now we've resolved that with this very simple little bit of action here. So in Sublime Text 3, the only time the event arguments get provided to a command is when it's invoked from the context menu inside of a view. And oh, hang on, my keyboard's kind of funky here. And it actually requested to get the event. In Sublime Text 4, the event argument will also be raised on commands in the tab context menu to provide keyboard modifier key information. This just shows how frequently I use these commands from the tab command palette. I usually do it in a different way, or I would have noticed that a little bit sooner. The context commands, we're running a file list in Sublime Text 4 because they ask for an event, but expect it to always contain position information. Boom, like so. Now, we should be on pre 2.2.3. Now, the other thing that we normally do for something like this is we need to make a few different changes here. First of all, we should probably spell Python correctly. In the world of the embarrassment, fix tab context menus. If they're invoked from the tab context menu. Sometimes I can't type and talk at the same time. Remember, if you're watching, if you have any questions about anything we're doing here or anything we're not doing here, please feel free to shout those out in the chat. I used to actually have overlay that said that, but I don't have it right now, and I'm not entirely sure that the bot is being particularly friendly about that sort of thing. And we also need to change it in the messages file, 2.2.3. Thus, it needs to go here as well. And then we'll just come back here and just very quickly say, yeah, we updated some stuff. We updated that, and we updated this information, and then we'll just amend that previous commit, and we're all good to go. So that's actually two things that have been fixed here. The other fix that's related to this comes from the idea that Override Audit has a few different kinds of reports that you can create. You can create a package report, as we saw earlier in the stream, which tells you all sorts of information about packages you actually have installed in Sublime Text. 52 packages are shipped directly with Sublime Text. They're the ones that have an S, that's this column. 18 that are installed Sublime package files in the installed packages folder. Those are packages generally that have been installed by package control. That's this column. Say, for example, channel repository tools, comment, glory, config, pickup, whereas the default package, ASP, ActionScript, and such are all packages that are shipped from Sublime Text, and 52 unpacked packages in the packages folder. That's any directory that exists inside of the packages folder. 52 is rather a lot of those, but a lot of them are anything that's marked with these brackets like this, that's red, is a dependency. This one is the piano plugin that's currently disabled, and a lot of these other ones are either packages that I've been working on, like Mark Selection Outliner. My Override Audit version is unpacked in the packages folder and not installed packages because I'm the one that's developing it. There's just so many different packages, project-specific keys. You might want to make a key binding that's specific to a particular project so it'll only work in one window and not another. Actually possible in Sublime Text 4, and we created a package to actually do that. I can't remember if we did a video about that or not, but It's a fun little thing. We should probably release that at some point. There's also other reports that we can do in here, like telling us for any package that has overrides what they actually are. But if you hover your mouse over the name of any package, you get a pop-up that tells you that this is the default package from Sublime Text version 4.112, and it's running in Python 3.8. It's running in the new plugin host. And then it ships with Sublime Text, and it also appears in the packages folder. And if we wanted to, we could see what we did to this, which in my case is modifying the paste from history command so that it uses a quick panel instead of a context menu. And that change I showed previously. You can also create overrides directly in a package, which is something that we've previously seen. There was a bug in this. The idea behind this command is that if you hover over any package that has a plugin inside of it, it should tell you what version of Python that package is running inside of, which should be Python 3.3 for older packages. And Python, like such as HyperHelp Author, runs in Python 3.3, but packages like default run in Python 3.8. And initially, the user package was reported as being in Python version 3.3 always, but actually it's always in Python 3.8 and Sublime Text 4 and 3.3 and other versions. So there was a fix to that we threw in as well. There's an added side bonus. Because YAML macros engine is actually a dependency, we can see exactly what packages depend on it, which is JS custom, and then we can see what dependencies this actually uses, which includes Sublime Lib. And then I can see that I have 2 packages that use Sublime Lib. Kind of pleased about this particular functionality. But we fixed that as well. So what we could do here in the stream, because that is really a rather poor problem, is let's test it in Sublime Text 3 and then maybe just push out a release directly here. And then we'll see what else we can get up to in this troublemaking stream that we're doing. I think that this should be using the same version of override audit. Oh, actually, I guess it wouldn't be, would it? No, it wouldn't. It's still an unpacked version, but it's a distinct copy of it. So we would need to, I guess I got to do it the long way. Sublime Text 3 packages override audit. Do I have this symlinked? No, I can't possibly have done that. And yet. Well, I guess there's only one way to know for sure, right? We need to look at the actual file that we modified. Context create override. And see if it contains that comment. Oh, sorry, that's not in the core, rather. In the core, roundabout line 1120 is where we want to be. Override audit core. Oh, all right. I guess, yeah, it is. It's a symlink. That's right. I keep all my packages in local source and symlink them in. That's cool. So that means that we should still be able to view package file, say this one. It's not an override. Clear the console, and well, I mean, we should be able to. That's weird. It definitely wasn't there before, but there's nothing that's under my control there. But it still works. Cool. I'm just starting to think that maybe I'm not as crazy as I thought I was. First time this time. It's interesting. Nevertheless, that means that actually works, and we could conceivably, if we wanted to, release this. So I guess that means we need to actually look at how we go about doing something like that. Which is actually something I think we've covered in previous live streams before. But it's something that's planned as a video in the Plugin 101 series, teaching you how to become a package and plugin author in Sublime Text. The whole process of getting a package into package control once you've finished developing one. We have actually a checklist of steps to take while executing a release. Many of these require modifications to files right at the point of release that cannot or should not be modified ahead of time. So the first thing we would want to do is update the documentation on the website to point to the information for the new release. That's probably something that I would do after the stream. I don't know that we necessarily need to watch editing, that sort of thing, although we could do something like that. We would be using Sublime Text after all. I think there's an item in the menu for that. If we went to Preferences, Package Settings for Override Audit, there's Documentation. Of course you would indeed, open in the wrong tab. Pardon me. We'll just go ahead and click this button and go like so. Boom. Sorry about that little bit of itch under the ear from the heat in the place. If we look at the change log, look at that. We missed the one for 2.2.2, so I guess we should probably make sure we update that for sure. The other place that this appears is on odatnerd.net, my webpage, which should probably redirect. There's something to look at for security purposes. But we would also update the banner on the page as well. And clicking this takes you to the Override Audit page, which tells you all about the package. And then you can click on the documentation, which is another way to get at that page that we were just looking at. And then there's a changelog that needs to be updated, so we can work on that as well. But that's the first parts of this stuff we would have to do. So ensure the package content meant for distribution by package control is up to date for the release. I got 2 fixes in there and I've tested them and they both work. Update README to document any new features that have been added. Have any new features been added? No, we don't need to do anything. Update changelog for new features and update date. So, well, I guess we need to type some stuff in there. It's 2021 and it's some month, July. Right? Yeah. And what's the actual date? 13th. My watch is in the charger right now. Okay. Correct the version of the user package, Python interpreter, and newer builds. Fix context-sensitive commands throwing errors if they're invoked from the tab context menu. Also, we need this information in that file that we just looked at a moment ago. This is this one, which is a file that gets displayed to you when the package actually updates. So we do that. So now we double check the file. We updated the README? Yes. We updated the changelog? Yes. New file in messages for package control updates? Yeah, that's this one right here. And if we were to reveal this in the sidebar, you could see that there's a folder named messages. There's a folder named 2.2.23. It's July 12th right now? Is it? Did I get the date wrong? No, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be the 13th. Are you messing with me? Phew. Hello, Ben. It is indeed live. Or this is the world's greatest troll. And I pre-recorded this and then hoped that somebody would say something at an exact point in the video. That would be a hell of a cool thing. Okay, there we got that part done. Update message.json to refer to the new message file. Well, that's going to be this one. And here's an entry for version 2.2.3 pointing at the file for version 2.2.3. So that part's done. Merge this branch into stable. Yeah, I'm not very good at it either, so I'm with you on that one. So we're going to open this up. We need to say we're preparing for a release. So we need to stage that file, and we're going to stage this file as well. 2.2.3. And we'll make a message following the standard message format. 2.2.3. This release fixes a small visual bug in the display of the version of Python used to run plugins in the user package, and fixes tab context menu items in Sublime Text 4, which were throwing errors. Into the handling of the event argument is what that actually is. So now that branch is all good to go. And then we just go ahead and merge that into stable, you say. All right, well, that ought to be fun. We go a little bit like that. We merge this into stable. We say we don't want a Final Fantasy. We don't want a fast forward commit. We want to perform a merge like so. Okay. And tag release with a -a message like so. All right. We can do that too. We can just go ahead over here, right click on this. There's a bug on the outside of the screen. At least I hope it's on the outside of the screen. Otherwise, you're going to see me scream and run away from my computer in just a minute. Create tag at commit. And that's going to be 2.2.3. Oh, sorry. The tag is v2.2.3. The message is that. Smart party. All right. The final step is to draft up a release based on the newly pushed tag. Pushed tag and new stable branch. And we probably want to update the master branch too, if I had to guess. But we'll worry about that in just a moment. So how this works is like this. First of all, I'm going to do this. I'm not sure if this will actually work. Let's see if it does. Because I can't remember if I put the command in, and if I did, I can't remember if that's actually what I called it. And we need to wait a minute to see if Nightbot is on the case or not. Probably not. All right. Well, I guess we got to go to GitHub. And we want to be in stealthy and hasty is where we want to be. What we're going to look at is this. This is the magic, such as it is, of having packages that... Oh, there's a bug in this file too. Somebody mentioned that. I think we need to fix that. Hang on. I need to do that just for a moment because it's a little disconcerting to have it in mobile mode. Okay. Adepta Potentia, hello, welcome to the stream. It is going not too shabby. We're It's fun to actually be on YouTube. It's been a couple of weeks since we have done a stream here. We're working on making some changes to a Sublime Text package, and we're about to release them. And the file that we're interested in looking, and the reason we came here, is to look at this file right here. And now we can zoom that back up just a little bit again. Danny boy. Oh, Danny boy. No, I shouldn't sing on stream. That'll drive the viewers away. Hello, welcome to the stream. Over here on YouTube, we do sort of Sublime Text related things. I'm working on some bug fixes to this package that I created quite some time ago for Sublime Text called Override Audit for, auditing your overrides. And we're just about to push up a brand new release. And I thought it would be fun to do a little bit of a description about how all of this actually works, because you may be familiar, if you use Sublime Text, with the idea of package control, and it has a list of packages, and you can install them directly from Sublime Text if you would like. And there's a little bit of work that goes into getting a package into package control initially, and then we can see the package right here. Nope. That it's currently version 2.2.2 and 1.2.2. This is a version, if you're using Sublime Text, versions of Sublime Text 3 that are really old, and this is the newer versions. Last time I made a release was 9 months ago. It was last seen 1 hour ago, and we can see various things related to this. Now, in order for this page to appear here, there needs to be an entry in package controls package repository. Now, there's actually, this one is actually the one that's being used. This isn't entirely how it works in the general case. I have a position in the community where I can do things in a slightly different way than what everybody else, the most people tend to do. But what you have to do to create a package and get it into package control is get an entry similar to this into the package repository for package control, which is on GitHub, sorry, which names, the names of the package, a place where you can get more information about this. This is the README that's displayed. Notice that it links to the stable page where the home page for this is, various labels related to this, and there are 2 releases here. This one says that releases that have tags that start with legacy-v will be installed for people using Sublime Text 3192 through 3196 inclusive. If you're using a version prior to this, this package won't be visible to you. If you're using a version of 3197 or later, then this is the one that gets used. And because it says tags true, that's just tags that start with a V. And what that means is that when there's a crawler process, that's what this last scene, first scene thing here is, where package control behind the scenes is looking in all of the repositories for all of the packages to see if they have any updates. That's what we refer to as the package crawler. And as it crawls through, it checks the repository to see, are there any new tags that weren't there before? And if there are, it downloads them and looks to see if there's a newer version based on the tag. And that's how updates arrive here. And there's so many packages that it generally takes an hour or 2 for it to cycle through all of them before it comes back around, which is why it says last seen 1 hour ago. The larger part about getting a package into package control relates to getting this entry into the repository file, which usually means you need to create a pull request for package control and wait for a human intervention to go over your package and make sure that everything looks copacetic, that you don't have bugs, that there's nothing too untoward in there. Usually it can take a little bit of time depending on the workload because it's entirely a volunteer effort. But once you're merged in, you're good to go unless you need to make some changes. Now, I'm in a position where I can have this in a slightly different location so that if I want to make modifications to this, I can, say for example, to change the labels of things if I wanted to, which is normally something that you would need to do a pull request for. But all we really need to do to have a new release appear is push up this tag, and the package crawler will automatically see it and make a release. You're heavily based in Sublime then? I am, yeah. I don't know what I'd have to do to be that far into a language. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily a language, more like a platform, but It's an interesting thing. It's just sort of something that I fell into. It's a story that I've shared on other streams on Twitch previously, and possibly here as well. They sort of blend together, but basically I was using JetBrains tools, and they were slow, and they had a bunch of options I wasn't interested in using, and there were some bugs in there that just kept biting me, and eventually I went looking for something. I found Sublime, and it was like a breath of fresh air. All the things that IntelliJ I saw as problems were not a problem. It worked on a really old version of Linux where normally I have to compile things, or I would have had to. That was a long time ago. Manually in order to get them to work. So I purchased the license like the same day. I wasn't entirely sure yet if I was going to keep using it or not, but the developers seemed to actually get what it is to come up with quality software that I thought that they deserved my support. But then it turned out I've just been using it since 2016, and I sort of fell into wanting to know as much about it as I could, because it was the first time that I used an editor where plugins seemed like there was something that I could actually do. Because in Vim, you can create Vim script plugins, but what's not really a language that I'm super familiar with. IntelliJ, you could create packages if you were using Java, but it's a long, complicated affair requiring you to have a whole SDK and Java installed, and even something really simple can take a ton of code and boilerplate, whereas in Sublime, it's very, very easy, and just sort of fell into a place in the community of helping people. Is sort of the short version of that. So let's say that we just very quickly check out master. We'll merge these in. Those ones could be fast forward merges. I'm cool with that. We'll push master to origin. We'll push master to GitHub. And then we will switch to stable. And we'll push stable to origin. Push stable to GitHub. This branch no longer needs to be here, because that one's just done now. Hello, Ashwin. Welcome to the stream. We're just pushing up a new version, fixing that bug that you reported a couple of weeks ago in the Discord. Now that I'm finally doing a stream, we looked into it, and it was exactly the problem that I thought it was going to be, and it was very easy to fix. So we're pushing a new version up. We also need to push this tag too, for version 2.2.3, and we'll push that. Well, we'll push it to both of them. I'm assuming, whoops, push tag, pardon me, 223 to GitHub as well. Now that we've done that, the clock is ticking on a new release. So if we look at this, the last time, it says it's version 2.2.2 and it was last seen an hour ago. As long as this number is counting up, then we have nothing to worry about. We don't know if we've done something wrong. If we see this go back, now, I mean, for us, we have to wait for it to say 2 hours before it goes back to 1 hour. Then we should see the number jump up. If you ever see this number count up and then go back, reset back to 1, and the version number doesn't change, then something hinky has happened. But we're going to jump on over to here because we need to draft a new release for this bad boy. And how do we do that now? Is there a little... I don't think I've done this since... Oh, I'm looking at the issue tracker. That's why. Derp. There we go. Make a new release. Indeed, there's two fixes in there. Well, there should be basically 2 commits or so. There was also a bug in the package pop-up for the user package, it would always display Python version 3.3, even though in Sublime Text 4 and Hub, it should actually report Python version 3.8. So let's see, we draft a new release from this version, right? Draft a new release for tag version at stable v 2.2.3, like so. You know, this is really that thing where I like to keep some level of consistency, but I don't do this frequently enough. One of the projects that I've had for a while is a script that does something like this. That's 2.2.3, July 13th, 2021. Does that sound like the right time? Copy that, paste it in here. 2.2.3. Now is the part of the stream where it's slightly less interesting to watch while we just type a little bit of details in here, but we do have this magic change log where we could do something like this. Although I do like to make these slightly more go. So we, oops, don't do that, sir. Fix the version of Python that's displayed when you hover over the user package in a report. The version number displays the version of the latest plugin host. Previously it assumed Python version 3.3, and fix context commands being invoked from the tab context menu. Whoops. What was that we were saying about not being able to type? Throwing errors because in a recent build those line up nice. Yeah. Probably more information than anybody needs, but nevertheless, let's do a little bit of a preview. Looks good. Publish release. Hello, Jack. Welcome to the stream. We have just released Override Audit version 2.2.3. Huzzah! The simple bug fixes in this release, they've been approved by me because things were broken. And now they're not. And it was even easy to fix. So that's always a fun time. Now we can just sit here and watch the page on package control intently to see, will it actually update? We got to take it all the way back. I mean, I could have just clicked. All right, has it seen it yet? No. Refresh. Have you seen it now? No. All right, well, that's probably not going to be super interesting. Does anybody have any other questions related to packages, plugins, Sublime Text, any of that sort of business? We do need to tweak a little bit of stuff here. I'm going to drag. Oh, actually. Good grief. Well, I can see why I didn't do that previously. I'm going to stick this over here for just a moment. I believe we're going to find that information around in somewhere like here. That's not going to be any good. There's one other thing that we technically need to do. One of those is to look for 2.2.1 and change this to 2.2.3. And the other one, Snorri Puppy is Snorri, is related to the information in the documentation itself. Is that inside there? Yeah, cool. Inside the changelog. I guess we should probably have a couple of these, huh? I can't believe I missed one. I'm a bad developer. I guess the other part of this is actually putting the information in this page. Huzzah! Independent verification. I wanted to point out that I didn't forget about that, but it was something that I wanted to do on stream, and then various streams got all canceled up by various things. But all fixed now. So let's see. We need one of those and one of those. So this would be 2.2.2 into 2.2.2, and those would be 3s, because I probably could have done that slightly smarter. That would be 2021-07. Don't do that. 13 and version 2.2.2. 10, 20. And we probably need 2 of these for this version. Type that in again. Fix the version of Python. Whoops. Displayed in the user displayed. And the other one was in. They did not expect them in. This one is a little bit more problematic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good grief. Probably should have copied it that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see what we got here. When refreshing a report, put the cursor back at the top of the file so that moving doesn't cause the scroll to jump. That's one. The next one is diffing packages. Sorry. With a Sublime package file is the one. The next one was all reports now use a custom context menu so that the commands that other packages provide for that. Oh, sorry. Relevant to the report are displayed. And what else did we do? Reports can now now optionally skip displaying overrides on files if they're overrides that are unchanged from the base file. Basically, the idea that overrides in Sublime Text are a very powerful thing that allow you to augment pretty much anything you like, except for things that are implemented in the core. Like, say again, for example, I want in my context menu to be able to have stuff going down, or I want to be able to have syntax highlighting for regular expression stuff in here, and I want my paste from history command to show me things inside of a quick panel like this instead of in a menu, because I get to see more context. The problem with overrides is that Sublime uses them but doesn't tell you that they're there, and traditionally, the way to create an override was to use package resource viewer to be able to do it, and the internet is full of instructions of people telling you to do that without necessarily telling you what it's actually doing. And when you create an override like this, it'll be in place forever and you'll never be warned. So you can cause problems. So I wanted to make sure, because of all of the playing I do, helping people and modifying things, that I would know when stuff was happening. So I kind of made it for myself. I consider it functionality that's kind of missing from the core, if you will. That would totally be a thing. I'm not sure if you were here, but one of the things that is a side project that's being backburnered for like a year and a half is using the GitHub command line program to automate the entire release process from beginning to end, which could conceivably include stuff like this as well. Realistically, I should just use the same verbiage everywhere, but I have different levels of stuff. Like the message that appears when the package updates, I want that to be short and succinct, but I want it to be more fleshed out in the changelog sort of thing. Reports can option. Next. So that, I think that answers the question, or hopefully it does. It wasn't work related per se. It's just functionality that I wanted, that I thought was missing. And I extended it after the fact to be able to create overrides, which is the thing that we're sort of tweaking up here. Because package resource viewer, not only does it have the ability to open a file and then when you save it, you create an override, which means that it's possible for you, basically the idea is, let's put the focus in the right place. The idea is that if I do this, I can see this file, but I can't type into it. Before this existed, package resource viewer was the way that you would do this. But if you happen to accidentally hit save, you would create an override without even realizing it, which seemed dangerous. Also, Package Resource Viewer has the ability to extract an entire package or every package, which essentially overrides everything, which is disastrous. So the two-part part of my ultimate evil plan, it was to replace Package Resource Viewer for creating overrides. You have to do it much more explicitly. And then also, because you have it installed, it'll tell you if you did something a little funky. Let's see. Okay. Did I count that wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I think I did. Creating a refreshing report, cursor will be left. Cool. Fixing issue or attempting to diff a package without a Sublime package file. That one's this one. This one's the new option. An override report skipping overrides. Apparently the change log shows the same thing twice. Right. I probably could have done that a little bit smarter. Technically, one is all we need. Realistically, the reason that happens is that every time I make a change, I just add the new changelog entry right away, and that was sort of a two-part thing, so I probably stupidly extended a thing and didn't notice that I did. Let's do it that way. The last one of these is... ironically, one of the last things we fixed was fix a bug with context menu commands in Windows where there was an HTML sheet, HTML or image sheet in place. Which would make the commands choose the wrong tab and potentially generate errors. Okay, so that is all of the bits and bobs for that. We open the repository for this bad boy and see what we actually changed here. Which is, we changed the version of that, so that's nice. On the home page, the changelog has version 2.2.3 and 2.2.1, and it also appears down here, which is nice. We stage that file up, and I'm not entirely sure why that one's there. Oh, that's something I was playing with on a Twitch stream, so there we go. If not a command for doing that, by the way, even a snippet, but I'd probably do something shell related since it needs to modify multiple files all at once. Update the documentation for, update the page. Like so. Let's push that up. Thusly, and then we just got to synchronize it, and all is good. And we may be running close to the end of the actual stream, unless somebody has a question about something that we might like to ask. Because I did mention earlier, I really should be working on some work-related tasks, and Twitch streams may not happen depending on how things go, or potentially only on Friday. Haha. So you got the stuff, but none of these issues were actually logged in the issue tracker, so that's sort of an issue there. But that's interesting, though. Does it pull changelog stuff directly out of the issue then? Do you have to provide a special comment in there that provides the fix, or not the fix, the text for that, I should say? That should be okay, right? Yeah, that seems okie dokie. All we got to do now is upload the thing. Is that going to do the stuff that I think it's going to do? I think it's going to do the stuff I think it's going to do. Only one way to find out. Ah, there you go. I've mentioned in streams on Twitch previously that the project that we're working on is one where we're using Git, and a lot of the people on the team are new to Git as a whole, and I've sort of helped them get up to speed with it a little bit, but we're moving into a new phase that's going to change a lot about how we do everything, including Git stuff, and I'm mildly concerned about how things are going to react as a result of that. It just sort of reminded me of that. We need to start moving to using pull requests in Git to get them used to the idea that that's how that's going to have to work in the future. That should, I think, update everything. Oops. If we were to look at the documentation for the package and look at the version history, I guess we need to wait for that whole thing to finish uploading, huh? I hope that script does what I think it does. Where'd my web browser go? Oh, it's over here. There we go. Oh, shoot. I forgot a line. But there's our stuff. We'll just fix that up real quick. Speaking of, this is something that I used to use stuff for to make sure these things kept themselves properly updated. But I haven't been doing that for this one. Let's just go ahead and rerun that whole shebang again, shall we? That was this one. Whoops. Oops. That was this one. That'll fix that little boo-boo up, and we could actually also jump to... I don't have anything for that, do I? Now it just... Oh, that's still aggressively cached. 2.2.3! Exciting. We got stuff done. That is not too shabby. We'll just leave all of those. New version released yet? No. But now, see, now it says 2 hours ago was the last time it's seen. So, what we expect to see is this number to say 2.2.2 until this number resets back down to 1. So if we see this say 1 hour ago, but this still says 2.2.2, then I did something stupid and I need to try to figure out what it was. But I'm pretty sure I put the tag in place. Otherwise, this release will entirely happen smoothly. And if you happen to be using this package, you'll see an update sometime soon. Unless you have updates turned off, but that's not something that I would recommend. One thing I did want to just double check here. I'm assuming that only gets an event when you want an event. Yes. The semantics for want event slightly changing. Not too shabby. Oh, there we go. Let's delete that. We don't need to be in... We don't even need this file at all anymore. Let's go ahead and delete it. We could recreate it if we wanted to. We can close that window up. All right. Page is all updated. So new version of Override Audit verified by Ashwin to actually work. We got a couple of things in here. We made some updates to the page, which should have happened a while ago. That's not what I wanted to do. I want to... Boop. Where'd the thing go? There we go. We'll do that to bring the thing back to where we started. And I think it's not quite been 2 hours, but I think we're gonna call the stream here unless someone has any questions. Oh my goodness, I need to roll the chair back and get a little bit of airflow because it is still rather warm in here. And let's go ahead and do a little bit of that. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today. We did some bug fixes, didn't have too many weird problems, which is all to the good. It almost seems like I know what the hell I might actually be doing. If you follow me on Twitch, I'm probably not going to be streaming tomorrow. Hopefully I will still be doing a regular stream on Friday, though, unless something happens work-related where projects get finished a lot sooner. I'm putting in a little bit of overtime to try to push the last phases of this project out. Other than that, we'll see you either on Friday or in next Monday's video. And that last video on Terminus really caught some traction. I think because Sublime HQ retweeted the tweet that I described stuff in. And they also liked my response about fingers crossed on official merch. So here's hoping that's coming too. You heard it here first. If Sublime Text, if Sublime HQ comes out with official Sublime Text merch, then we will do a t-shirt giveaway of that merch right here on the channel after that happens. Details to be announced, obviously, because that's not something that can happen right now. But I have been increasingly getting people asking me questions about where they can get one of these things. So when merch officially becomes available, we'll probably give a few of those away. And until that happens, you're just going to have to be super jealous about how I'm styling in my Sublime Text and Sublime Merge t-shirts. Thanks so much to everybody for joining. We will be back next Tuesday unless the inversion heat dome comes back, but I think it's moving towards the interior. And we will also be available on Twitch as well. Remember, I have a Discord. There's a link to it down in the description. If you want to ask additional questions about what we did here or anything else Sublime Text related or programming related, you can ask those in the Discord. You can also join the Sublime Text Discord if you have questions about Sublime Text. There's a link to that down in the description as well. And we'll see ya in the next stream. So let's see if I remember how to do this here. I guess I need to adjust my fingers and go a little bit something like this. Have a good night, everybody. And thank you so much for joining. We'll see you in the next one. Have a sublime night.